The sick and injured are always with us. So says the Lord. So says John the Baptist. So say all of the prophets. So I guess it must have been true in the 9th, 7th, 5th, 4th centuries BC, when the respective prophets noted it, and also in the time of Christ. Then it was said again in 5 Shakespearean plays, with slightly different phrasing, of course, but the intent was the same. It was also said by Queen Elizabeth I, by Benjamin Franklin, by Rousseau, by Teddy Roosevelt, by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, by Eisenhower, by Truman, by JFK, by the great Hubert Humphrey, by Lyndon Baines Johnson, by Presidents Ford, Carter, George H.W. Bush, Clinton, and most recently, President Obama. All of these presidents had one thing in common. They sent young men and women to their deaths in combat and visited them at Walter Reed Medical Center or Landstuhl Medical Center in Germany, or what was a medical center at that time. Upon leaving the wards, all commented, "The sick, injured, and disabled will always be with us." It is our duty to care for the sick, injured, and disabled people among us, whether they be our family members, our friends, our lovers, or our frenemies. We are put here for each other. If we don't tend to and for one another, who will tend us later when we fall? There are insufficient youngsters now to care for the elderly, insufficient children being born to care for the current adult population as they age. I chuckle a bit as I imagine these entitled teenagers and young adults learning to care for one another. That will definitely be a very steep learning curve. But I'll be quite happy to be sitting on a cloud, keeping score, out of harm's way. On every hospitalization, I am teaching again. Just as at the med school, I am teaching ethics. I am teaching the class of discrimination by chart to the young residents. I nicknamed them Fluffy, Scruffy, and Ponytail on the most recent hospitalization. And a most enjoyable time of how to properly do a vein puncture to a talented but very timid and scared, shaking young Muslim woman. "No," I said, "that's okay. Let's do it again. But first, this time, deep breath. Quick prayer so you are centered. And say to yourself, I can do this. Now say it. No, say it so you believe it. Good. Now let's do it. She had been shown a very improper technique for the initiation of the vein puncture and to set up an IV perfectly. She had been shown to push down on the vein, which is counterproductive because then you're flexing the vein when you want it flat. So I just focused her to think like an IV, using a wee flutter by a butterfly, which is a type of needle that's straight. And after 3 previous fails due to improper technique, and 7 fails out of 9, we now had a perfect draw on 5 consecutive tubes. She came back at the end of shift to say, no misses today. All veins hit on the first time. Let me tell you, that is a patient's dream technician. That was a record, she said. Oh, thank you. All because she was open and willing to learn. I've seen her again since then on other inpatient stays. She's just the top of her game. We must always care for each other, everywhere, regardless of faith, regardless of race. We are created by God in His image. Feel the love of God by whatever name they may call Him. That girl, she called Him Allah, but it is still the one true God, just a different name. We ended up in the same loving place, regardless of the names. And we found love for and of each other, as commanded, despite the veil and despite the lack of the veil on my part. There is no hate in the one true God. There is no discrimination. There is no color. There is no race. There is no gender. If someone says there is, she or he is not a follower or a lover of the one true God that is found in Christianity, that is found in Islam, that is found in Judaism, and that is found in all of the monotheistic religions. We are all created in the image of God. To hate someone for an intrinsic characteristic, is to hate God. The sickness of the soul has only one cure, only one medicine which will heal it. Forgiveness mixed with love. Pope Francis, 17 January 2020.